Thank you all for participating on this panel today, and thank you to those of you who are watching. My name is Reagan Lance, and I'm the president of our chapter of Beta Alpha Psi here on campus. Beta Alpha Psi is the accounting fraternity that connects students to recruiters and career resources. For more information on Beta Alpha Psi, you can visit our website, uobap.com. We have a variety of accounting firms represented here today, each of different size and specialty, with their respective recruiters who can provide multiple perspectives on some important topics for students entering the accounting recruitment season. I'll let these recruiters take a few minutes each to introduce themselves and their firms, and we can begin with Hunter.
My name is Hunter Denson. I'm the university recruiter for Grant Thornton. I sit in Seattle, but I also work with our Portland and Bellevue offices. And so excited to be here today. If you don't know, Grant Thornton is one of the larger professional services firms in the world. We work in audit, tax, and advisory. And again, just excited to share more information with all of you.
And my name is Mary Savage, and I work for Kernet Stokes, which is, we have offices in Eugene, Corvallis, Bend, Lake Oswego, and we provide tax, audit, advisory services as well. We're very excited to be a part of this and help students as best we can. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. My name's Erin. I'm one of our senior university recruiters with Frank Rimmerman. We are a full-service public accounting firm based in the Bay Area. So main offices in San Francisco, Palo Alto, and San Jose, offering rotational programs at the intern and full-time level. Excited to be here and share a little bit more with you today.
My name is Angela Sparks. I am a campus recruiter with Moss Adams. If you're not familiar with Moss Adams, we're a fully integrated professional services firm, mid-sized, West Coast based. We have over 25 locations working across 30 different industries.
I'm Chelsea Albertson. I work for Perkins & Company, and I'm the recruiting coordinator. Perkins & Company has one office location in downtown Portland. We are the largest locally owned firm in Portland as well. I'm really excited to be here, and we offer tax, audit, and advisory services, just like most of us here.
Hi, my name is Garrett. I am a campus recruiting manager with Baker Tilly. We are a professional services firm that is headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, but offices throughout the entire United States. Super excited to be here. My undergraduate degree was in accounting. I have my CPA license, worked in practice before transitioning over to recruiting. So very familiar with the recruiting trail, and I'm here to help as much as I can navigate a process that can sometimes be a little awkward and uncomfortable. So very excited to be here, and thanks for having us.
Thank you all very much for introducing yourselves. And now we'll get started on the questions. What is the number one factor that makes a candidate stand out to you?
I think the number one thing that stands out to me about a candidate is curiosity. And I think you see that in a lot of forums. You know, when you're engaging with somebody, they were obviously curious enough to reach out to get more information about the firm. You know, when a student has done research on the firm, maybe the service line they're interested in, but even looking into things they like about maybe the community work that a firm does. I think that showing that type of curiosity lets us know that you're somebody who likes to invest, who's interested in more than just the fact that maybe you were given a task to do, but wants to know the business purpose behind what we're doing so we can provide that value to the client. And I think that that's the trait that we want most of all, you know, when that stands out when we talk to candidates.
I'll chime in here. One thing that I look for when I'm talking to a student is being able to carry on a conversation. Sometimes you get just one word answers, and the mock interviews are great for that, but just being able to relate to people, and it's a people business. We deal with people every day. It's not the person back in the office with a visor and a pocket protector anymore. It's people. So you need to be comfortable with that and be able to, you know, the worst case scenario is somebody who just doesn't give you anything and you're having to work really hard to pull it out. So somebody who can, you know, you can always just mirror the questions that we ask, you know, that's a last resort. But being comfortable in an environment and being yourself is really challenging sometimes for students.
Yeah, and I kind of, you know, added a couple additional thoughts on this, and Hunter, I think, really hit it on the head. So you stole the thunder from all of us a little bit there. Curiosity is a genuine, natural curiosity, I think, always trumps everything else, whether you have a smooth delivery or you're uncomfortable in social settings or whatever it may be. If we know underneath deep down that there is just a curiosity of genuinely wanting to know why, that's amazing.
Maybe I'll jump in and maybe put some minds at ease out there. It's a lot of these things are so great, and it really is kind of how you show up in all the interactions. But looking at your resume or your transcripts or things like that, it's never just one thing that it's like, oh, that is, you had maybe one bad quarter. Well, that's fine. Address it. Like Garrett said, be accountable to your experiences. What do you learn from it? What are you going to do next time? It's never just one thing that really is a make or break in that. It's really kind of that whole candidate experience. So maybe you haven't had an internship yet. That's okay. You're out there, you're trying, you're kind of moving forward. So it's really just kind of that well-rounded thing that really makes the candidate stand out at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's definitely a progression factor that I'm looking for when I'm talking to candidates. We meet you guys as early as your freshman or sophomore year. We know that you're not fully prepared. We know you have no idea what you're doing, and that's okay. My favorite interactions are with those people who I met as a freshman, and then I see them as a senior, and I'm just blown away by the progression that they've made and figuring out who they are, really, defining like what they want in their career and where they want to be. At least those baby steps, right? As you're kind of deciding, like, I need to get a full-time job soon. What does that look like for me? What kind of firm is going to work best for me? And seeing that progression along the way really goes, I think, a long way with all of us.
I think that covered most of what I had as well. Great answers. I guess the other thing I would add is just enthusiasm and knowledge for the position and the firm that you're applying for. Doing a little research ahead of time and being able to share why it is that you're interested in working in this role and working for that particular company. That stands out as well.
How can students best prepare for the hiring process?
One great tip is connect with all of us. Connect with your local recruiters. Reach out. Don't be afraid to network with people. Ask a lot of questions. Visit your career center. Connect with your faculty. Beta Alpha Psi. You all have so many amazing resources available to you. So make sure you're taking advantage of those. It can definitely help you get prepared for this process.
I think there are a lot of traditional ways for you guys to kind of go through the recruiting process with us, participating in all of those events that we offer, different networking nights that we all have on our own as well. But I think that just to kind of touch on those people who can't necessarily participate in everything, we understand your students, we understand you also have lives, maybe jobs, families, whatever it is outside of school. Those people who take the extra step to reach out to us on LinkedIn to ask if we can have a virtual coffee, or, in normal times we're meeting in person, things like that. Even if it doesn't work for you to participate in those traditional events that have set times and dates, if you're making the extra effort to participate and to network with us on your own, that goes a long way too. And just those little research items, going on our website and figuring out that we either have 10 locations or we have one location. Those types of things kind of take away from those opportunities to really get to know you one-on-one and as a person, when we're kind of answering the basics that you can find online. So just being prepared as you go into those events or one-on-one conversations with us.
I also think, one big thing is just to think about what you're wanting to get out of the process before you enter it, right? Sometimes just marking out your path and the trajectory that you feel like you want to go in this is important, because then it can make sure that you're really focusing on the elements that you want answered, the pieces that you need, so that you don't get distracted as you get busy with family, with school, with work. And hopefully that makes it more of an efficient process, but also makes it seem less daunting, because you can really see what comes next as you're going forward, and you realize that we're here to help you. Yes, there are some things that would be good for you to know as you do your own research and you ask, but hopefully laying out that plan kind of gets you an easier way forward so that you can see the end goal as you go to that.
I think that's a really good point, because a lot of students just come in and they try and tell you what you want, what they think you want to hear. And it's time to do soul searching. You gather the information and then you make a decision. And it's a very personal decision. You have to think about what's right for you, not what's right for your parents or your friends, or, audit may not be the right choice for you based on your personality type, or tax might be a better choice, or advisory. It just depends. You have to do some soul searching.
What firm and/or service line research is important prior to interviews and one-on-one conversations? And how can students find this information?
As been covered, do your research to kind of dig in. Why are you showing up to those interactions? Why are you showing up to that interview? Maybe it's a specific service line or the location or something about the firm has obviously drawn you there. So if you have that understanding ahead of time, it's going to allow those interactions to be a little bit more intentional about you personally, what you're going to bring to the table, what you're excited about. So I think especially it's really nice to have that understanding of the basics. Anything you can find on the website, you should have a pretty good understanding of to why did that stick with you? What are you really looking for? So anything that you can find online, whether that's the website, maybe social media, maybe just the job description on Handshake, what kind of stuck out to you? I think those are all huge resources that can really then kind of alleviate the time in those, the time goes by pretty quick in those conversations. So it can really open it up to get your questions answered and to really kind of dive in from the foundation after that.
I think the other thing to note too is that it doesn't always have to be an earth-shattering thing. I know when I was looking, at my firm, one of the first things that stood out to me was the language on the website. I liked the tone. I thought it was different than some others I had read, and it opened up a conversation of getting into culture and different things like that, which was kind of what I guess I really liked when I saw that. But just know that it could be something small like that. It could be an interaction you witnessed or even one that you were a part of at a fair. So, anything like that, I think it still can open those conversation doors so that you can have a good connection point that can lead into more information about the firm and why you're interested as it leads into like opportunities to interview in a position afterwards.
A great point. I would add to that kind of this one to me is what students can struggle with sometimes, and it's difficult. Style matters. And I hate to say that. I know as accountants, we think analytically, we focus on certain things. Unfortunately, for this one, how you go about doing it really matters. So the research that you're doing when you're kind of learning about these firms and how to have these conversations, it's totally okay to be wrong, right? Like you say, hey, in my research on audit, I discovered that there's a lot more teamwork in audit than there is in tax, and how you phrase that question can really open some doors with professionals, because you may learn from a tax professional, hey, you know what? We actually work in teams on the tax side a ton as well. And it's not the manner in which you phrase the question is not declaring that you know this for sure. It's that you've heard this and we're interested in what this person had to say about that. Is that accurate, inaccurate in their experience, that kind of thing. So how you phrase these questions once you've researched them has a huge impact on how the professional will share their experience and their knowledge on that particular matter. So try to approach this kind of from a curiosity standpoint in learning about all of this instead of, hey, I know I'm not going to like tax because of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. One thing that I find students will do on occasion is ask a technical question about a new tax pronouncement or a ruling or a gap thing. And, some of us are CPAs and can answer it just fine, but it typically will go over their head anyhow. But it doesn't impress me. I'm much more interested in culture, communication. Are they going to get along with everybody? That sort of thing.
For you, as recruiters, what defines a great cover letter or resume?
Okay, resume and cover letters, they're the scary documents that you have to provide all of us. Ensuring that one, you have all of the correct and accurate information on your resume, I think is number one. Putting the email that you check regularly is very important. The phone number that you answer, don't put your mom's phone number. I've definitely called people's parents before and they're very confused. So just ensuring that all of those basics are covered and that they're on there. Making sure that your formatting is correct. The biggest one, I think that we all are missing a lot of times on the resumes that we are reviewing are CPA eligibility dates. Those are very important for us. That is kind of how we decide, what bucket, what group are you with, so that we ensure that you're talking to all the right people, you're participating in all the right events, and that we kind of help guide you through the process. Basic grammar, I correct a lot of cover letters and send them back when I have the time to, but You guys, when we're in a busy recruiting season, we don't have the time to look at all of your applications in advance and send them back to you. So just ensure that you're getting, an extra set of eyes on all of the documents that you're providing us. Another big thing in cover letters, make sure that it's addressed to the right people. I love sending, married cover letters and applications when they come to me, and I love getting them from other recruiters as well, saying, "Hey, I think this one's for you." It's a joke between us recruiters, but really, you guys, it's an attention to detail thing, and that's really important in this industry and in this career. So make sure that all of your documents have been reviewed multiple times, and make sure that you're talking to people who know what we're looking for specifically in our industry, because we are very picky and we do have very particular guidelines that we're kind of looking through as we're going through your resume and your cover letter.
One thing I look for in a cover letter is to make sure that they're explaining any gaps in their resume, or if they struggled with their GPA or something like that. And I also want it to be heartfelt, tell me something they have learned about themselves from their experiences is a big plus. You can tell if it's just a form letter. And the other thing is don't have, you have to be very careful if you're mentioning the firm in more than one place, because I can't tell you how many cover letters I've read. I'm interested in Kernet Stokes at the top and then Moss Adams at the bottom. That happens all the time. So be careful of those fill-in spaces. And humor is always good. It makes it stand out, and I learned something about the personality.
The other thing I always say is just be purposeful in what you're putting in there. As you look at your resume, you look at your cover letter, think about each thing, each line. Why is it here? Is it supporting my argument? Is it not? Do I need it? Do I not? And the other thing is, as you look at each of our firms, we all talk about the values, kind of what we're looking for in an individual. Think about having your resume and your cover letter speak to how you showcase those values, whether it's collaboration, excellence, whatever it happens to be on there. Think about that. That way when we read it, we're seeing what you've done and we can see what you've studied, but we also can get a bit of a glimpse into, the way that you're showcasing the things that we think you need to have in order to be successful at our firm.
I echo everything that's said so far, really huge points and good things to consider in your materials. And I guess what I'll add on is more just a formatting tip. Highly recommend sending everything in PDF, not Word. You might have a Word document that looks great on your end, but once it gets over to me, something's changed, or the way you uploaded it, the way I download it, something might get lost in translation. So highly recommend anything and everything you send it in PDF.
I think keeping it kind of clear and to the point and organized as well. So really try to keep it to one-page resume, one-page cover letter. In terms of the cover letter, I think one thing I always like to recommend is make sure it's not just summarizing your resume, make sure it's supplementing your resume. So use that to share new information, more information with us, as opposed to maybe just reiterating what we already see on the resume. Use it to expand.
As a follow-up, should experiences with other firms or SLPs or internships that students have attended be included on a resume?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it's important to know kind of where you've been throughout the process and the experience that you have had. And also, again, it's more questions for us to ask about, what did you get out of that? What did you really like about that experience? Whether it be with my firm or another, there's still going to be information that comes from that conversation that's really valuable. And it also gives me a little bit of insight to know that, okay, you're on track, you're following the process correctly. There are people that kind of come in later. And so it's nice for us to know that as well, so that we can kind of catch you up to where you need to be, especially if you're a transfer student, or again, you're kind of just thrown into this process and you are just not prepared, not ready, and you kind of miss that first fall or you miss that winter recruiting season. We are there to help you and guide you through that process. So it's definitely valuable information to know what you've participated in, again, for conversations and to help you kind of move forward and progress.
I think it's really important for students to experience as much as they possibly can and get to know the culture of different firms. I mean, a tax return and an audit are pretty much the same wherever you go. It's about the culture and figuring out where it's going to be a good fit for you. So, we're hiring for long term. We want people that are going to stay and be happy where they are. So if they can, that's the point of summer leadership. So you can spend a whole day with the firm that you're interested in. Choosing a few is a good way to go. I mean, 5 or 6, and we coordinate on the dates so you can attend several of those without a conflict. And you typically have time for 1, maybe 2 internships, depending if you're doing a summer and a winter internship. And that's an invaluable experience on where you want to be and where you're going to be happy. So I encourage students to do them.
Tell us about early leadership opportunities, sometimes called SLPs or summer leadership programs, and what are the differences between those opportunities and an internship?
So yes, some of the firms have like a true summer leadership program in which you will apply for the program, you'll attend that program, and it's an opportunity to learn about the firm, learn about career opportunities, different paths, different service lines within public accounting, do some networking, meet professionals at the firm, learn about the firm's benefits, and just, get connected, get familiar with the culture. And then that potentially then leads into an internship opportunity for the following winter or summer. And then other firms might have you apply directly to the internship. And so you'll go through the recruiting process for that internship position. And then if you receive an offer, you'll be invited to participate in some additional programming that's very similar to a summer leadership program. So again, opportunities to meet professionals, learn about the industry, get connected. And it's a great opportunity, I think, again, to get to know all of the different firms that you're interested in, compare your options, weigh your options, and see which one's really going to be the best fit for you. And I don't know if anyone else wanted to add something to that, but
You did a great job addressing all of kind of the keynotes there. So that was awesome. I just want to reiterate, I think every one of us has kind of mentioned this. And I think one of the frustrating things in the recruiting path is that you're going to hear a lot of the same answers over and over and over again. When I was a student, that was frustrating to me, but as I've gotten a little bit older, I've understood that the reason everyone kind of says the same thing is because that's kind of what the truth of the matter is. And so all of these opportunities and experiences with firms to get to meet them are critical data points, at least for me. I'm not, if I meet someone once, I'm not prepared to say that they're either the best person I've ever met or the worst person I've ever met. I like a few visits with them to try to get to know them and be introduced to other people. And so the more experiences you can have with firms, the better feel you'll get for where you might want to spend more of your time. So just to reiterate that, any experiences, these summer leadership programs, whether they're webinars or virtual just for a few hours, or whether they're 2-day events or week-long events, these are really more learning opportunities and networking opportunities for you. In contrast to an internship, where an internship, if you do it, it's really going to be, you're at all of these firms here, you're going to be treated like a first-year staff. So it's work, right? So you're actually getting work experience. The summer leadership type programs are really more so for you to get a feel for what the firm, the individuals, and the firm's values are like, and for you to either make a decision that I enjoy this, or maybe this isn't right for me.
That was a fabulous answer. That really summed everything up. And I also wanted to point out to you guys, this is another opportunity for you to practice those interview skills, practice those networking skills. It's okay if you fumble through it. Like, that is why we have so many various steps along the way of your schooling, so that you can, again, progress as we go. I think it is super important, super valuable for you, not only to learn about all of the different firms and finding that right fit, but also to get some practice for yourself so you feel more comfortable in that next situation. Because I know we all leave, all of us, we've been in presentations where we've like, wow, we do the same presentation every single year and I fumbled over all of my words. I don't know what happened. So we're all human too. And so the more opportunities you have, the more confidence you'll gain in that process as well.
As a quick follow-up, how many early leadership opportunities should a student apply to, and how many internships should a student apply to?
was going to say, I think it really depends on what you're looking for, right? We all encourage you to take a look, right, at all of our firms to see what's a fit. So again, if you do a bit of work beforehand to really start maybe the first look at maybe what you're looking for, that can kind of narrow the pool a bit. But I think applying to multiple programs is totally fine. We definitely encourage it. And like we said, we really try to work to make sure you don't have any obstacles, if you do want to go to those programs and be able to go through it. And I think with the internships, it's the same. What I might say is, do a little bit of research before to kind of cast that net and start it out. And then as you continue to connect with us, as you connect with professionals, go to events, if you start to see some that start to drop off that scale and they're not going to be considered, let us know. Totally fine. Like I said, this is a process of you really getting data to figure out where you need to be. And that way, hopefully, it will help you just narrow down as you go. But overall, applying to multiple internship opportunities or even summer leadership programs and attending them, I would think that's the purpose and what we want you to do for sure.
One thing I recommend to students is apply for internships where you want to be ultimately. Don't apply to an internship in Corvallis if you really want to be in Seattle just because that's where you are for the summer. I mean, that's not really going to tell you the experience that you're going to have. I mean, yeah, it's convenient, but it's an investment in your future to be where you want to be.
Absolutely. I feel like you really just kind of need to be honest with yourself on what you're looking for. And, maybe each student is going to be completely different in that boat. Maybe you're kind of really early on and still in that exploratory phase. And, maybe you're doing 10 interviews for SLPs. Maybe that's just where you're at. That's great. Go get those touch points and kind of narrow it down from there. Maybe you're on a little bit of a different boat where you've already kind of had those interactions. You've really identified that the Bay Area or Seattle or wherever it is, that's where you want to be. Then great, follow that path and really narrow it down. The number of SLPs that you attend or interview for, that doesn't really speak to the rest of your process. If any, it's going to be completely different for everybody. So I don't think that it's a specific number, and I don't think that really has any comparison value. But to the point that was just made, really be intentional. These summer leadership programs are kind of, at the end of the day, a conversion tool in seeing where you want to be for your internship and maybe even that full-time role down the line. So take the opportunity to really have it be a touch point for you on, can I see myself interning here? Is this really where I want to be? And use that to kind of guide your decision from there. And don't overcommit. If you truly don't want to intern with Frank Rimmerman, I will not be offended, but don't feel like you have to come to our summer leadership program just because you already had interactions with me or anything like that. We totally get it. This is an experience for you to kind of help narrow down that pathway.
I guess I'll leave with a final note of just the communication aspect. Like, it is okay to, apply to all of these different events and different internships, but don't ghost any of us. That is where it becomes detrimental for you. I think the other thing to remember is that this industry seems very big, but it is very small. And we all talk to each other and we help each other out. If life changes down the road for, one of my accountants and they're in the Bay Area, like, I have a contact. I'm going to be able to connect them and make sure that they have, a job opportunity when they move, or vice versa. It happens all the time. So you don't want to burn bridges early in the process. And it is okay. You guys are not going to hurt our feelings. We have heard no so many times. It is fine. You just need to kind of close the loop so that we know, because otherwise we might be holding a spot for you and we're unsure of kind of where you're at in that process.
If a student doesn't get an opportunity for an SLP or an internship, how can they find similar opportunities that set them up for success?
Spring can be really competitive and it's early in your academic career. And if it doesn't work out this time around, don't let that deter you from reapplying again in the future. I think it's great to use that to focus on ways to enhance your skills and strengthen your application. And yeah, apply again in the future. I think, most, if not all of us, will always have some opportunities next season too. And we would love to see you again and continue to hear how you've grown. And I think don't be afraid to think outside of the box too. I think it was Chelsea that was saying, you know, a barista position can actually have a lot of really transferable skills. So, you know, if there are other job opportunities, think about the skills that will help you in public accounting and look for other places you can get those if you need to. But yeah, I guess my biggest thing would be don't get discouraged. Continue to reapply. Again, utilize those resources, your career centers, your recruiters, your faculty, other trusted mentors, and just continue to grow and try again.
Keep networking. Stay in touch with your professors. Let them know. I mean, we just hired somebody this week that had completely missed fall recruiting. Now it's in a slightly different position, but it's fine. You know, they stayed in touch with not just the professors, but the people they went to school with, and you know, industry people. It's fine. I mean, that's a really good way to stay connected and find a position down the road.
So if I'm being really honest about this, I love this question. This is one of my like mission statements as to why I got into recruiting in the first place. I think the path is difficult and there's a lot of rejection that can come along the way. And my heart goes out to students who didn't get what they wanted, or it took them a little bit longer to learn along the path. I was a transfer student myself. So when I arrived at my university, I felt like I was behind. Just don't give up. And so, by the way, that's way easier said than done. So you are going to take some bumps. You're going to take some licks along the way. It's super hard. And if you don't get a summer leadership program, if you don't get an internship, if you graduate, if you then go to grad school and still don't get a position, like, do not give up. If you really want this, your next step in that process is getting the units for the CPA exam. Okay, you have the units. Okay, pass the CPA exam. We just hired someone who didn't get anything he wanted through all of his undergrad and grad school. Came out, passed the CPA exam, and all of a sudden he had multiple offers. Like, it will change the game if you pass the exam. And so along the way, from first or second year all the way through to graduating, there are still opportunities for you to come back and go after that CPA license and get hired by a CPA firm. So again, it will be difficult. Make no mistake about that. But if you want this, you absolutely have the ability to get it, even if you aren't initially offered what you want. So just don't give up.
And one thing I hear from students fairly regularly is they hear Big Four, Big Four, Big Four. And I encourage students to look at the other firms out there, whether they're regional or national or whatever. But, you know, life does not depend on whether you get a Big Four offer or not. And so in your recruiting process, you should be talking to multiple different levels of firms and different ones you may or may not have heard of before, because they have a lot to offer.
And the last thing I would say on this too, you know, I actually spoke with a candidate this week who had interviewed with us and he didn't get an opportunity the previous year before for our program. And, you know, instead of reaching out to me and saying, hey, what did I do wrong? He spent some time and he said, you know, I interviewed with you all last year, and looking at it, I think that maybe, you know, this was my focus and approach to the interviews. I'm looking at it a bit differently, but I wanted to toss this out and then see if you had further suggestions on how I might prepare or just adjust my approach to these behavioral interviews or whatever it happens to be. And we had a really good conversation, and I think he came away with some other steps that he could use. But again, he did the research to look in and say, okay, this is what I did. I feel like I did pretty well here, but I'd love to check in with somebody and make sure. So follow up, you know, check in and say, hey, I'm looking at this. Am I in the right sphere? Do I need to adjust my thinking? What do you think I should do? And then that'll give you some more information to work with as you continue, and don't give up.
I'm going to touch on that too, just being self-reflective in the process, you guys, because it is a very daunting, you know, recruitment cycle. We all know that. We all work in it. So we can definitely, you know, understand, you know, all of the challenges that come along with it, but being self-reflective in the process. And again, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So go and ask the question. We want to answer that. We want to help you. And if you're just in that position of, you know, I'm at this grade level, or this is what I think my plan is, does this sound right? Like, those are great questions to ask us, because we can kind of help guide you through that. But what we can't do is do the self-reflective piece and look back at your, we have our own opinions of how you interviewed, but if you do your own work, you're going to be able to really develop and come back, much stronger the next year or in the next opportunity. And opportunities come up at all sorts of random times. We do have, very rigid recruiting cycles, but we're a business. Things change all the time. So, definitely stay connected and keep putting those feelers out throughout.
Just going to say, bottom line, I think the summary here is that if you don't get the summer leadership program or the internship that you were hoping for, there's still hope. That doesn't take you out of the recruiting process as a whole. I hope that's the biggest takeaway. We obviously hope that you all find what you're really excited about and hope that works out for you moving forward, but know that it's not linear in that sense. Like the point was just mentioned, there's a lot that can change, and especially on your end too. You might realize that you're excited about something else after that reflection point. But I think overall at the end of the day, it's really just kind of making meaningful use of your time once you have those decisions and kind of can have the confidence to move forward. Maybe it is another job. Maybe you're taking classes over the summer instead, whatever it might be, taking that time to kind of move forward and continuing to get public accounting experience elsewhere, even if it's not in a formal summer leadership or an internship program. Stay connected with Beta Alpha Psi. You have a great club here on campus that can really kind of keep you involved, keep you connected with recruiters, kind of continue that exposure to everything that the industry has to offer, and check out other firm-sponsored events, even if it's not, again, that formal summer programming. I think all of us have different speaker series or just kind of chances for you all to meet us in other capacities that maybe don't have a formal application or anything like that associated with it. So don't get too bogged down, continue to stay plugged in, and you never know what could happen from there.
For your final thoughts to leave students with, what advice can you share about how to handle the stress of applying and interviews?
One of the things I talk to candidates about is, and it was kind of briefly mentioned too, like we don't expect to see this perfect actor delivering the line right, it goes forward. And so I always say, do some preparation for interviews, but if you get into a situation where you're asked a question and maybe you don't respond in the way that you want, or you felt like you stumbled or didn't kind of get your point across, don't let that stop you. Go to the next question. Make sure that you can respond well to that. Follow up on a comment they make. Continue to go and realize that one misstep or one thing that you think you did wrong where you may not have even done wrong, it still keeps you in a position to keep going forward and to adjust as you need to really show yourself off there. So I think realizing, that it's not the end of the world. Every single interaction you have is not a make or break. It's an opportunity for you to get information, for you to grow, and for you to learn when maybe you do have something that you need to adjust for the next time. But just know, I know in my first interview for the first job I got, I completely blew a question. And I could have let that just tank the rest of the interview, but I was like in my head thinking, no, like I have to keep going. I'm going to do this. And I did well on the rest of it. And I ended up getting the job despite that first awful question. So just know that the pressure is not on that first word, that first question. You can still go forward, receive an opportunity, and have that work out in your favor.
I think one thing that's really important for students is to be yourself. And, don't try and put on a persona. That's exhausting. And it's, just, and also stay with your normal routine. If you exercise, keep exercising. If you crochet or whatever it is you do for stress relief, keep doing it and get sleep. Students are just frazzled by the end of fall recruiting, and getting sleep is really important, but be yourself.
Just try not to be so hard on yourself. You will do great things if you start believing in yourself a little more. Again, I know it's a bit cheesy, I know it's a bit hokey, but I really believe that.
It's really hard to follow such words of wisdom. That was fabulous once again. But you guys, I think just take a deep breath. It is going to be okay. This is a two-way street. It is not just us judging you. That is not what this is. You have to, love the potential career in public accounting. You have to like the firm that you're going to. You have to see yourself there just as much as we see you there. So just remember that when you are in interviews, it's just a conversation. Yes, we're asking you pointed questions because we want to hear how you'll answer them. But if you're true to yourself, you will land exactly where you're supposed to be. and it will be okay. And yeah, just take a deep breath. And we, again, are here to help guide you through the process as much as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, and to that point, just to reiterate, it really is just a conversation. I hope just kind of getting to know us on this panel a little bit more. We're all just humans on the other side of the screen. And that's really, I mean, I think all of us show up with the same energy in an interaction or an interview format as well, where we're just humans. We stumble over our words too. I've messed up in interviews before. Yesterday, I said that I was a public service firm, but that's not what we do. Like, I mess up all the time as well. And that's okay. It's part of who I am, and I'm moving forward with it. But remembering that, we're on the other side just wanting to get to know you and hoping that you show up wanting to get to know us. And I really liked Garrett's point earlier about the script. I think that you can get kind of in this mindset, I have my elevator pitch and it's a formal interview structure and that's what I need to do to be successful. Like, that's great, but I can read your resume. Like, tell me something that's not on your resume. Tell me who you are. Did you exercise this morning, to your point? Did you crochet? What else are you doing? So being okay, kind of pivoting a little bit from that, being a little bit vulnerable in those interviews, I think just being yourself is the biggest thing that we ask.
All such good advice again. I think, just to build on that, try to have fun. I mean, the people you're meeting with we want to see you be successful too. So we're not trying to trip you up in an interview. We really want to see you succeed. So yeah, just try to be yourself and have fun with it as much as you can. And remember that interviewing and applications, that's a skill set and it will get easier. The more you practice, the more you do this. Every single time you do an interview, you write a cover letter, you fill out a resume, it gets easier every time. So practice, I don't even want to say practice makes perfect because I don't think perfect is realistic, but practice makes things a lot easier and your skills will get stronger with repetition.
Panelists, we appreciate your time and your expertise. You have provided valuable information for students approaching the accounting recruitment cycle. Thank you all very much for coming, and as always, go Ducks!